It's an awkward breath. Hey guys, welcome back to Forward Farming. We have another really exciting guest on today's episode. When Becca and I were thinking of guests to invite on this season, we both kind of had like a unanimous, we need this person on kind of a moment. So I'm really excited that this guest was willing and able to come chat with me today. You might have seen her around Facebook or on Instagram, or you might have been spammed by one of her spam accounts because she has a lot floating around. But Miss Zoe, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to be talking to you.
So we always like to just throw you right in the hot seat. Let's just jump right to it. For folks that might not know who you are, do you just want to give kind of like a quick little rundown about who you are, what you do, where you're at, and all of that kind of good stuff?
Yes, so I am an eighth generation farmer in Ohio. We produce corn and soybeans. We have done a lot of dabbling in cow operations, cow calf herds, and then just backriding cattle. Currently, there are no cows at the farm as of today. We'll see if that changes in a few months. But I came back to the farm after I graduated from Ohio State in 2017. I worked for my dad for a few years. We formed a partnership. And then now I am in my third season of owning our farming operation. My dad decided to peace out and retire. For context, my dad is 40 years older than me. So while it seems like I'm 29, by the way. So generally people think that I've like started at a very young age, but it's just because we have such a sizable age gap betwixt us. But yeah, day to day, my dad still hangs out on the farm. I have one year-round employee, JD, who is a mechanic, and he really fills in all the gaps of the things that I'm not very great at. And he's also one of my landlords. So it's a fun dynamic we have going on here. And then I post online at Farm with Zoe. I started doing that in June of 2021, and that's turned into this like fun little side gig that I've been doing. And this is how I meet cool people like you.
I didn't know that you were owner of your farm. That's a really cool accomplishment for a 29-year-old. How did that come to be? Did you go to school? Okay, let's pause right there. What did you go
Yep.
to school for? Did you go to school knowing that this is what you wanted to do? Like, have you known that you wanted to take over for your dad since you were little? Like, talk to me about that
Yes.
process.
Yes. So I did 4-H and FFA growing up. I always knew that I wanted to come back to the farm. There was one time in fifth grade that I decided I wanted to be a hairdresser, but that phase really went away pretty quickly. And my parents were like, trying to steer me in a different direction. I am not a person that like my hands are not steady. I could not cut in a straight line. Like
Yep.
I'd be chopping hair off. So went back to the wanting to be a farmer really quickly after that. But I went to Ohio State and I got an ag business degree, basically as a backup plan. Higher education is something that my mom has always really stressed, and also she had a fund for us to go. So I had help there, and basically she wanted me to leave town for 4 years, experience something new. We're in a very small, kind of closed-minded town, and she just kind of wanted us to get out, see the world. So I got an ag business degree from Ohio State. I wouldn't say I like really valued the education I got out of it, but I had a really great time. I met a lot of like lifelong friends out of it. But yeah, I always knew I was coming back to the farm too. So while I was in college, I wasn't too worried about like getting the best grades. So there was a little pressure off of that because I was like, my
Yeah.
dad has to hire me. So whereas like in high school, I was the class valedictorian because my mom was like, you have to do all these things. You have to get into college. And then when I was finally like away, I was like, it's fine.
Oh, that's funny. I think you're the first person that I've talked to that went to Ohio State and doesn't say the Ohio
Oh,
State. So
well, and
thank you.
I was on the cheerleading team my first 2 years. So like I really should have a lot of school spirit, but I don't.
So was that a conversation that you had with your parents before going to school? Like, hey, this is my overall plan. Like, did you start that succession plan like way before you went off to
Yes.
school?
Yes. So when I was in high school, my dad had like a 4440, a 4840, 8440 tractors. So older series tractors. And basically he was thinking I can either kind of maintain this equipment, I can kind of coast, maybe get rid of some of my cash rented ground and kind of just like ride this on out into the sunset. Or if one of my kids wants to come back to the farm, I can kind of continue to update equipment and keep things kind of going so that there's a place for someone to come back to. And so my dad and I were having those conversations in high school. And my senior year, it was the first year that my school did senior projects. And it was kind of like a beta test. We were allowed to do whatever we wanted to do. And I made my senior project determining if I wanted to come back to the farm. So I learned how to do the bookwork. I drove the combine. I did like a whole bunch of different tasks. And then like during my final presentation, I was like, yes, I do want to come back to the farm.
That's awesome.
So we knew it was going to happen. And it happened like a little differently than we expected to. I came back to the farm in 2017. In 2018, we had one full-time employee who my dad hired when I was born. So had him for 23 years. He passed away in a motorcycle accident. So that really changed the dynamic of our operation, and we changed a lot of the things that we do. We got rid of our sprayer. We kind of backed off doing a few things here and there just because instead of like finding someone else to kind of fill that void, we just decided to kind of switch things around a little bit. So then after that, we formed a partnership and we became partners. And that was really like, so we were making a transition into partnership, but while we made that like operating agreement, we already were deciding how I would buy him out over time. So really like the transition is going to happen in many stages because we became partners. And then after 3 years, we'd been intending on running our partnership for 5 years. A few things kind of came up. My dad has always had health issues. It was simply not really safe for him to be doing daily tasks. And so he decided he wanted to take a step back. So I bought out his shares of our partnership. And so now I'm an S Corp inside of our LLC, and I just own the farming operation. So when I say that, I don't own the ground. I cash rent that from my dad, and I don't own the buildings. I rent the building space from him. So it's kind of like jumped into partnership, jumped into buying him out, and then hopefully 1 million years down the road when my parents pass away, then the ground will be like split amongst me and my siblings.
How many siblings do you have? Is anyone else involved, or is it just solely you and your dad at this point?
Yeah, so I have an older brother, Cody. He is an ornithologist. He researches birds. He is a professor in Maryland. And then my little sister, Mackenzie, lives in New York City, and she works at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and she is
What?
a party planner. So
What?
we're three very different people.
I love that though. That's really cool.
Yeah. But yeah, with that said, neither of them ever had any interest in coming back to the farm. They both actually, ironically, my brother did 4-H and he took the bird watching project and then turned out to be doing birds his whole life. And my sister always knew that she wanted to live in a big city. She wanted to have an excuse to dress up for work every day, and she did not want to have a car. And she has done all of those things.
Those are very specific things to want in life. Good for her. So
Yeah.
does she get to
Yep.
plan like the Met Gala?
No, so that's the
Oh,
one
okay.
party that she doesn't. But we were talking the other week, and she has 6 different events where she has to wear a formal gown this year. And I was just like, I haven't ever once in my life needed to wear a formal gown for anything.
I mean, you're engaged. Congratulations. So there's your formal
I
gown.
guess yes, I will be wearing one formal gown. Oh.
So let's talk about your fiance because how did that happen? Not,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
small town living, like how does that
Yes. No,
happen?
no. Thank God my mom made me go to college because I got him there. I had cheered with one of his roommates, who he was living with. He lived with a Brutus and a cheerleader. And So he was always at parties and stuff like that. I found him that way. I convinced him to move to the farm at the beginning of 2020, right before we knew the pandemic was going to happen. He was living about an hour away in the city, and we decided that we were gonna stop doing the long distance of it all, and he was gonna move here. And then, like, literally 2 weeks later, everything shut down, and he was just so thrilled. He was not stuck in his little tiny apartment, and he had like the whole farm to hang out at. So he works remote. But yeah, so I found him, I snagged him, and because slim pickings around here.
I feel you. I live outside of a village that's 300 people, so I understand.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is related to everybody out here. Like, you need a blood test to date in high school. Like, am I related to this person? A background check is needed. So
Yes. Well, and
totally
you
understand.
can't even be offended when your friends date the other guy that you liked, because like there's only a couple options.
Yes. What does he do for work?
He is a user experience designer. Are you familiar with what that is?
No.
Okay, so the way I like to explain it is, if you go to a website and you can't find what you're looking for, like you don't know what tab to click on, and you're like going back and forth between different things, that's bad user experience. Whereas if you go on a website and it's like, I obviously need to click this button and it takes me to this page and an easy checkout, that would be a good UX. So he works for Amazon, and he helps build websites for foreign countries' healthcare systems, but he does the design part.
You have some really cool people in your circle. Like, those are some really cool jobs. And then throw you in the mix too. It's just like such a little powerhouse. How has he transitioned to being in such a rural community? Is he used to anything like that?
So he is actually from like a small town that was close to a big city. He grew up and he worked on a pumpkin farm in high school, so he has like a little bit of a background there. But when he moved to our town, he joined the Masons. Do you know what the Masons are?
Yeah.
So his grandfather had passed away, and he had like been a Mason with high, I don't know, he was like really involved in this secret society. And so Tanner, to like honor him, was like, oh, I'm going to become a Mason. And so he joined like our local Mason thing. And so now he knows all of the old guys in town that I don't know, which is just odd because I've lived here my whole life. So he did that, and he really likes golfing in our yard. We have a pretty large yard, and he likes to like golf around in between calls. So it's been pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. I really enjoyed when I'd go see him on weekends, like eating at nice restaurants, and like some of that city living that was like, I would go there for like 2 or 3 days at a time, and like once a week, and it was kind of a best of both worlds situation. But it's nice having him here as well.
Yeah, you're making it work, I guess.
Yep.
And the wedding planning is going well, or are you thriving in that, or do you hate it? I feel like there's no in between.
No, I hate it. And like, luckily, so since Tanner's a designer, he like actually cares about things. Like, he made our save the dates and designed the wedding things. And he insisted that he like make our own website. So like, we're not using like Zola or the Knot. He like made Zoe and Tanner at blah, blah, blah. Like, he's doing so much that like is not necessary. But I really appreciate it, because I don't want to do any of that work.
Good for him. It sounds like a good match for you guys then.
Yes.
Cute. I totally lost my train of thought. I was just thinking how fun wedding planning was for me, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Did you enjoy it?
I did. I before I moved back here, I sold wedding dresses and tuxedos.
Oh.
So I love doing that, and I always told my mom, I was like, if I didn't come back here, I'd be a wedding planner. Like, I had so much fun doing that. So if you ever need help, just let me know.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I feel like that would be a fun job of like helping people try on dresses. I did kind of enjoy that. But I'm not like an emotional person, like in public at all. And so like when I got my dress, like my future mother-in-law and my sister and my mom were there, and it was like they did this thing which was like probably really lovely for most people. They like every time they would like they'd have these curtains and they'd like pull them apart and they'd like reveal whatever dress I was wearing, and every time I felt so silly. And then like I had a dress that I knew this was the dress I was going to get, and they're like, we're just going to like leave you alone for a few minutes, like you guys can talk about it, we'll come back. And then like they came back and they're like, they were trying to give me the whole like say yes to the dress thing, and I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna get this one. Like, we're good, let's go.
Get me out of here, please.
Yeah.
It was so fun because you could always
Mm.
tell a bride when she found her dress because she wouldn't stop petting herself. She would just like
Oh.
run her hands down the front of the dress. And I didn't think I would do that, but then once I like found my dress, I was just petting it like just instinctively. I was like, yes, you are mine. You're coming home with me.
Yes. Yeah.
Sounds so
Yeah.
great
With
here.
mine, it was I had like had a vision in my head of like what kind of dress I wanted. And I tried on like all of those. And then I tried on one that was the absolute opposite of everything I said I wanted. And I think I said like, oh, this is iconic. This is like the moment, but like I could never. And then Kenzie was like, literally, you can do whatever you want. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess. Okay. I like this one.
And that was it.
Yep.
Oh, cute. I love that. So switching gears again, getting back to the farm.
Yes.
Row crop farming to me is so foreign. I don't know a lot about it. So can you talk to me a little bit about you do just corn?
Corn and soybeans. Yep.
Corn
So
and
we do.
soybeans. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have half and half.
How do you okay. So talk to me about planting because I feel like there's a lot of seed salesmen out there. How do you decide what kind you're buying? Do you do like test runs? Do you find a salesman and you're like, I trust your judgment, let's do it? How does that work?
Yes. So yeah. So seed is really, really interesting. So I would say maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I don't know, whenever I came back to the farm, my dad was planting 5 different brands of seed. And so he was just buying a little bit off of everyone. And because he was just giving everyone a little bit of business, and then he got to really test all of these different brands because people are always saying this brand's better than this brand, and it's very much like, are you a John Deere or a Case kind of person? And so he just had a lot of all of the brands. And with that, we didn't get any bulk discounts because it's basically like the more seed you buy, the better discounts you get. And so we had one seed salesman, how would seed saleswoman, a lady, who is she sold one variety to us, and then she switched to a different brand, and we bought that seed off of her, and then she switched to Beck's hybrids, and we went with her there, and then we decided we were just going to put all of our eggs in one company just so that we could get those bulk discounts. So we went with Beck's hybrids, I think 5 or 6 years ago, like as exclusive, which then you get all of the like free things. So Bex has this like rewards program that is very controversial and people make a lot of fun of because it's basically like, it's like, did you ever do fundraisers at your school where it was like, sell all these things and these are the prizes you can pick
Yeah.
from? Like,
Yep.
there's a prize book, and like there's like, if you're a huge farmer, we are not a large operation, like you can get a tractor lease or you can get a semi.
Really?
But yeah, and this year they had a Dyson hair dryer as one of the options, and I so badly wanted to get it, but I was like, this is not a good business decision. So I my free item was drainage tile. And
That's
so
smart.
now we're installing that this winter actually. But so yeah, so we went with this one company, and then we did like a 3-year agreement where it's like, we're going to plant your seed for 3 years and you get these nice bulk discounts. And then on all of those, there's so many different varieties. And so you have like enlist beans, or you have extend flex beans, which is just the different like chemistry that you can spray on them. And then we do like 104-day corn to 110-day corn. So we have like 4 different seeds for corn and 4 different seeds for soybeans. So basically you have just like a variation. Some seed reacts better on different soil types, and some's hardier than more. And there's like racehorse varieties that, like, yeah, they might do really good, but then they might also fall down. And they all kind of have like their pros and the cons. So yeah, that's seed.
Um, so how you because your markets change all the time, right?
Yes.
Are you are so you when you harvest, they're not going are they going anywhere right away or do you store I don't know how this works. Do you store
Yes.
them on your
So
farm and then sell them later? How does that work?
yes, yeah. So our storage, we can hold pretty much all of our crop, unless if we have a bumper crop, then we have to do some more extra sales in the fall. But yeah, you can market all year round. Um, a lot of the times people just for like cash flow purposes and for taxes, it's like you hold a certain amount over every year so that you kind of have an even distribution. But yeah, you can sell any day that the market's open, Monday through Friday, just like the stock market. Um, and there's a whole bunch of really fancy kinds of contracts you can do. You can just haul it in the day of and say, I want whatever today's price is. You can do delayed price where you haul it in. They charge you a fee, and then you can sell it at a later date. But yeah, so pretty much like in the fall, we harvest, we bring it all into the bins, and then all of the winter and some of the summer, I'm hauling it out of those grain bins.
So like for us, we just have one contractor like with Ocean Spray. You can pick and choose who you're selling to.
Yes, yes. So there are two or three like kind of more local places I can sell to. I haul most I all of my corn in the last 2 years. I've hauled to a Poet biorefinery, so that corn is used to make ethanol. But you can haul to all these different locations, and then they have different basis. And so if they're a location that like really needs corn, they'll bump their basis up. So it's like whatever the price that day is, plus or minus whatever the basis is. Um, so yeah, we have some flexibility there in who we sell to, but since it's a commodity, like corn is corn, so it doesn't really matter. Like when you're planting it, you don't have to know who it's going to.
Okay. So like your buyers don't need to know necessarily like what variety or what brands they're getting as like corn is just corn.
Corn is just corn, yeah. And then they test every single load. So when you go to an elevator, they have a probe. They take a sample. They test the moisture. They check for damage or any mold, stuff like that, foreign material. And then you can get docked if you have too high of moisture or if there's something funky up in your corn.
Are they testing um for any products applied to the corn either? Like if you spray anything, are they checking for that ever?
Um, I
Like you don't
don't
need to
know.
hand in like paperwork saying like this is what it was treated with on what days before it was harvested, anything like that. You just haul it in and be
No.
like, here you go, go nuts.
Yeah, yeah. I guess unless if you were doing like organic or non-GMO, maybe those places would be a little bit more stringent, but nope. Now they
Interesting.
do like if you somehow got like a treated seed inside of there, like that would be a big no-no. So you do have to make sure like if you like we use a seed tender to load seed into our planters, and we have to make sure it's like totally cleaned out before we put any uh seed out of the field into it.
Okay, interesting. So walk me through because you're coming up to planting season soon, right? Like
Mhm.
soon, soon?
Yes. Our insurance date, I think, is like April 15th for when you can start.
Okay. And then how long is it just you that's planting, you and your hired guy? Just the
It'll
two of
be,
you?
yeah, it'll be me. I'll probably be in the bean planter, and he'll probably be in the corn planter. And I have one guy named George. He's 86 now, and he still helps me, which is just like a little crazy. He still flies an airplane too, which I'm like, how
Love
can
it.
that be legal? But yeah, he'll help out. I have another retired teacher that could do some running around and stuff. But JD and I will be the two main people planting that crop, and then there will be people working the ground ahead of us.
So, do you have to do you have to switch ground between corn and soybeans is it every
Yes.
other year that you have to
Yeah,
rotate through?
yeah. So we always flop back and forth, and we have like three fields that we would say are like our best yielding fields traditionally. And so we always say like, oh, it's a corn year or it's a bean year for like whichever one has those acres are in. Like we're always like, oh, that's going to be the good crop this year, which it just depends on the weather and the growing season. But
What does a typical planting day look like for you? Like they're pretty long hours, yeah?
yes. Yeah. Because with planting you can go all day, all night. Now we do not run all night. I do know there are some farmers around us who like literally do like three different shifts and they go in a 24-hour cycle, but that's not for me. That feels a little dangerous for JD and I to be pulling all-nighters all the time. But so JD's job is a little bit more complex because we put starter fertilizer on our corn. So he has to be refilling with fertilizer and seed. Whereas like with beans, I just have to have seed and it's like pretty easy. I can tend myself. But typically my dad and or someone else will be pulling tanks to him to the field so that he can have fertilizer going. Um, but yeah, and it's usually like a free for all as well. Like sometimes I will like be working in front of myself. And so like I'll work a little bit and then I'll plant it. Or if for some reason we don't want to be planting corn on one day, I could be working ground ahead of JD. And it's like a little bit of chaotic madness all the time during planting season, but it lasts significantly less long than harvesting. So it's really just like a mad dash. We could get all of our crop planted easily within like 2 weeks. However, like we never get 2 weeks right in a row just due to weather.
What do you do to keep yourself sane during those busy days? Like, is there anything you find enjoyable while you're stuck in the tractor? Like, do you listen to books? Do you listen to podcasts? Do you have any form of entertainment that keeps you busy?
Yes. I listen to so many podcasts. It's and like in the winter when I'm hauling grain, it's like I just listen to podcasts all day long. Um, but I also like do a lot of scrolling on TikTok just because we do have auto steer. I should not be looking at my phone as much as I am, but it's like kind of tempting, just because it's like, okay, this is a pretty big, wide open field. I know there aren't rocks around here. I'm gonna be on my phone. But yeah, it definitely gets like I would say usually when we get into like the last couple of days of planting, it's like I can't believe I'm sitting in this chair for another day. I usually do reach a point of like, okay, this isn't super fun anymore.
What's your favorite season? Do you have one?
Oh, I definitely harvest. I like planting because it's kind of like a time of hope because you're like, oh, this could be the best crop ever. There's all this potential. Whereas harvest, it's like this year we did not have a good harvest. We just had like low yields that were just very disappointing. But it's like, okay, now I know that information and I can move forward. And like you're getting the information that you've been waiting the whole season to know.
Hmm.
And once those fields are worked after harvest, it's like I can finally like check them off for the year, and that feels really satisfying. Whereas like with planting season, sometimes you have to go back in and replant. So like once you're done, you don't really know if you're done until like a month later.
I can't imagine. Good for you. I'm just so impressed that you're doing all this stuff.
Does cranberry farming feel like it's more fun now as I'm explaining these things?
Yeah, yeah. Like we have plants. We just renovated some plants that were over 60 years old that you can just let them go.
Hmm.
They're fine. And then they let you know when they're done and we know when it's time. So I just can't imagine having to plant that many acres every single year. We have to do maybe seven acres a year is all that we replant, but good for you. I'm
Yeah,
glad someone out there likes doing it.
there has been talk of making like a corn plant that would regrow every year, and that like that's fascinating to me. I just I wonder if that's something that we'll see in our lifetime be like a normal practice.
I mean, I just saw a video where it was a tractor that like the lasers and the weed control stuff, like your precision planting for row crops is so fascinating compared to what we have. Like we have to manually go out there with a hockey stick and like a paintbrush and wipe our weeds. And you guys have freaking lasers that can just pinpoint.
I don't have
It's
lasers.
crazy.
I don't have that. That's the rich farmers. I'm not. I'm not quite there yet.
Someday it'll
Yes.
happen.
Yes.
Um, so talk to me a little bit how you got started on social media because that was around, you said COVID times that you started posting.
Yes. So I got in TikTok like sometime in 2021. I posted like maybe 2 videos. I was at a wedding and I was talking to my friend Justin, and Justin was on teacher TikTok, like basically posting about what was going on in his classroom and like tips and tricks for other teachers. And that was all that my algorithms were showing me because I just kept interacting with his videos. And then I had another friend who was making like dog videos. And so it was like dogs and teachers. And so I had like posted like 2 farming videos, and then we were sitting at this wedding and he was like, Zoe, you need to do like farming videos. Like this could be a legitimate like thing for you. And he gave me a couple of tips and tricks of just like you have to post every single day and do these things and try to do the trending things. So I started posting, and it didn't like take off right away. It took me, I think, like maybe a full year to get like 40,000 followers, perhaps. But it was like pretty slow growth the whole time. And then I went on an influencer trip. I got the opportunity to go down to Texas. We did a thing where there was like 3 food content creators and 3 farmers, and we taught them about like production, and then they taught us how to like cook said things. And so this was my first time hanging out with people that were doing like social media full time as their jobs. And so like when we were busy, like when we were done with the days, like we were done with whatever we needed to do, I was like, okay, how's this work, you guys? Like, I need all the tips and tricks. Like, tell me everything. And they were like, you have to get on Instagram. And I was like, I don't want to get on Instagram. That's where my friends and my family are. That's so
Yes.
embarrassing. I could never. Um, and because like in my head, like I had made the TikTok and I was like, if people I know find it, fine. But like I wasn't like really promoting it anywhere else. But they're like, you just have to have like some more stability. Also, like at that time, they were talking about like TikTok being banned and stuff. And so I was like,
Mhm.
okay, fine. I'll just start posting these same videos on Instagram. And it was like we were gearing up for harvest of 2022. And I knew I didn't have the bandwidth to try to come up with like an original funny idea every single day while also doing harvest. So I just decided to do like vlog style videos of however harvest was progressing. And in like a 45-day period, I gained 90,000 followers on Instagram. And during that exact same time, I posted all the exact same videos on TikTok, and I got like maybe 50 more followers. So, like, just lightning struck. I had a really good luck. For some reason, people got really invested, and that kind of exploded my Instagram. And then maybe I don't know when, a while after that, I started posting on Facebook, and my Facebook grew very rapidly. So like the ironic thing is I've spent the least amount of time on Facebook. It's my largest platform by far, followed by Instagram, followed by TikTok where I started.
That's crazy.
But like my TikTok community is like really curated. These people like grew with me. I feel like I know them, they know me. Like Facebook is like a cesspool, and I don't look at the comments, and it doesn't feel like friendly people that support me.
Hmm.
So it's like it really, really drives home the fact that like bigger is not better in any means.
I it's so interesting to hear people's stories on where they started and what like their home platform is. To hear you say that you started on TikTok and then Instagram was just an afterthought. That's just it just sounds bass backwards in my brain, but good for you for making it work. That's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah. Well, and people are like always saying like there's all these people out there that are like social media gurus, and they're always saying like, oh, TikTok's the easiest place to grow. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm doing something wrong over there, I guess.
Yeah, do whatever works best for you as authentically as possible is just kind of like my thought process on that. But now you have a podcast with your sister. How
Yes.
how
Yeah.
is that going? What
Yeah.
what sparked that interest?
That is definitely more of a passion project. I had like kidded around with her a few times about like starting a podcast, and she was absolutely not interested at all. And then I think this winter she got kind of bored and she's like, I need another thing to do, because she had graduated from her master's program and she'd been used to like studying in the evenings, and she's like, what do I do with my time now? Start a podcast, which we haven't like we keep calling it a podcast. We've only released videos on YouTube. Um, it was my like, I'm in charge of figuring out how to get us on to the podcasting platforms, and I just haven't done it yet.
I love
I'm
that.
behind, but yeah, it's absolutely a passion project. It has absolutely nothing to do with farming, because I feel like I've put all of my creative juices into all of the farming things. And online, I don't really talk too much about my personal life and things going on there. So I'm like, this is a good long form place that like only people that truly like me are going to listen to me talk for a few hours. So I feel more safe and comfortable, like just talking about my daily life and stuff with my sister.
That's how I feel like our podcast is kind of turned into too. We both have kind of like recluse from social media a little bit, and this is just, we always say this is like our therapy sessions when we can get together and just spill our guts about what's going on and off the farm. So totally relate to that. Watch YouTube videos if you ever want to put it on. That's what we did. Like I reached out to Becca and I'm like, hey, let's start this podcast, but we don't know how to do it. So it's just like Googling how to start podcasts and just watching these short little videos. So anyway, I know you have to get going here pretty soon. So do you want to let people know where they can follow you on social media if they want to keep up with your life, and where they can find your podcast if they want to check out more of your your
Yes.
therapy sessions?
Yes. So I am at Farm with Zoe. Zoe's is spelled Zoe. Sometimes people like to spell it with a Y, but it's just Zoe, on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and then it's Farm with Zoe Kent on YouTube, because for whatever reason I couldn't get Farm with Zoe on there. Um, and that's kind of a new passion project too, is starting the YouTube up just for like some kind of longer form videos. I just do weekly recaps of whatever we're doing on the farm. And then Sister Friends Podcast, we have an Instagram page, and you can find us on YouTube at Sister Friends Podcast.
Perfect. I will link all of that in the show notes below. So if you guys want to check her out, give her a follow. If you're not already, please go do that, because you've got a lot going on and you are one impressive lady. So keep it up.
Oh, well, thank you. I like to think that I'm spreading myself a little thin, but one of these days I'll kind of tone things down and really plow down in one direction.
Good luck. Keep telling yourself that.
Yeah.
It'll happen.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. If you're not following us already, you can find us over on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Forward Farming Podcast. Can you hear that thunder? We have a huge thunderstorm going on right now.
Oh no.
Anyway, sidetrack. I'm over at Cranberry Chats. Becca